I guess I can see there's 3 viewers here, but there's nobody in here with me. And actually, I need to figure out how to screen share on here. I know there's a way to do it somewhere. Let's see. Oh, here, screen share. Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know if you want to join me in the as a participant, it'd be great. I'll put the URL for that in the Slack channel. Here. Oh, that's not good. You guys, people that want to participate, can you put your Gmail address in the Slack channel, and I'll see if I can add you. I wonder why it's not. Let's see. Probably should have tried this before 12 o'clock, huh? Hold on. I'm just going to leave and come back in a second. Seemed to just put me back in. Oh, please don't let it. Sorry about your sausage, egg, and cheese. Shoot, come on. Oh, maybe it's this hang up thing. Well, I guess maybe I'll just do the demo and you guys can ask questions in Slack since there are some of you watching. And I apologize that I can't see you and answer questions directly, but perhaps unless somebody knows how to share this thing, I'm just gonna, because, well, I guess it's only 4 minutes after 12. Let me just look for 1 more minute here. I feel really dumb. All right. Oh, wait, here's a little question mark. Help. All right. Well, I'll just get started with a demo. And then if there are questions, feel free to put them into Slack. maybe we could do this again another time when I've tested how this thing actually works. So let me share my screen here. Ooh, yeah. Let's see, here's our Slack channel here. So I guess before I get started, I just give you some context here for what this thing is that you'll be seeing. And most of you are familiar with the Documenting the Now project already because you found out about it through the Slack channel. But it's basically a partnership between University of California, Riverside, Washington University in St. Louis, and University of Maryland to basically build a tool that really kind of grew up out of work that Burgess, Jules, and I did around the Ferguson project, or sorry, the Ferguson protests. This work was largely just sort of trying to collect what was going on in social media, primarily in Twitter, after Michael Brown was killed in Ferguson, Missouri. And this is why a lot of you are in this channel already, and so you already have a lot of this context. So it's probably not worth going into too much detail about that now, but we did end up doing some work around that data collection, and then we're writing about it with some of you on Medium and stuff like that, and it eventually led to a grant that we got from the Mellon Foundation to basically try to explore building a data collection tool for Twitter that would allow you to sort of collect in real time and also look at web content. So it's kind of, the idea was to kind of use social media conversation as a as signal data for the web. So lots of Twitter data has URLs that are sort of pointed outwards at the web, and like, what does it mean to sort of look at the web that way through an event? And so we started in February, and we've been sort of going on two tracks. The first one has been, and they've been going kind of in parallel. Alexandra, who's also in the channel, is our user experience designer. So she's been doing a lot of interviews, talking with some of you about what kinds of social media data collection work you do, and different modes of, or ways of doing that work, or ways that you'd like to do that work. And so we've been sort of busy doing that. And then also at the same time, Dan Chudnov, myself, and Francis Kaiwa have been sort of working together, trying to figure out a way to work together as a technical team, sort of looking at different tools for doing this kind of work. And Dan has done a lot of work already on Social Feed Manager primarily, and also work at the Library of Congress on collecting Twitter data. So this is kind of like the third or fourth time through doing some of this work. Hey, nice to see you, Laura. Sorry you can't. I feel like I really screwed up with the presentation of this, because it would be nice to actually chat with some of you. Yeah, the idea was we would just sort of not try to build the DocNow tool that we sort of wrote as part of the grant, but really just create a design prototype for us to figure out how to work together as a remote team. And also, we wanted to have something at our meeting in St. Louis to sort of kind of throw darts at. That's what I call it, throwing, basically to center some of the conversations around. We did do that in St. Louis, but we kind of waited till the last minute to do it because we did a lot of design conversations before that. Mostly, we didn't want to sort of seed the design discussions too much with our own ideas. We wanted to kind of see where other people were at before presenting them with this thing to throw darts at. So, and after that, we thought, well, it'd be nice to share it with other people in the channel, in the Slack channel that are interested. So that was the motivation for this poorly executed demo where I can't see anybody. But I figure we'll just get on with it. So anyway, the prototype that we've been working on, one of them, the main one is this thing called DN Flow, which was named by Dan Chudnov. And you can actually find it if you go to our GitHub page, which is like github.com/docnow/dnflow. And I guess it gets its name, DocNow Flow. And it largely started because of, Dan wanted to sort of think about the data flow. So I think that's how it got its name. He never really told me, but that's how I think about it. It's really focused on the flow of data from Twitter and sort of like, what does it mean to sort of process that data? And it's a very lightweight application. It really is a prototype. It's not meant to be scalable to millions of anything. But yeah, you can see it here on this GitHub page, the instructions for installing it, but I'm not going to go through that now. Francis actually created an Ansible playbook for it, which is really kind of nice. It's linked right at the top there, and you can basically use this playbook to start it up on your local machine if you want, using VirtualBox. If this sounds like a reasonable thing to do with your time, which it probably doesn't for many of you. But the thing I wanted to show you today is that we have an instance of it running up in on our Amazon EC2 instance that we had it. We set it up for the meeting basically, and that happened. Was it last week? I think, yeah, last week. Or was it the week before? I can't remember. Anyway, so if you want, you can follow along from where you are. If you go to a.docnow.io, that's where we have this sort of demo prototype running, hopefully. Oh, thanks, Alexandra. It was last week. Sorry, yeah, I know. Time flies, I guess, right? And let's actually, maybe I'll pause just for a second if there's any questions about any of that. Maybe you can ask in Slack and I'll just wait a second. And you can see your own, you can see Alexandra laughing. If there are no questions, that's fine, because I haven't really shown anything yet. So, all right, so I'll try to keep an eye on that while I'm showing this app. So yeah, so if you you go to the app, you can see that it definitely looks like a prototype, right? So there's no branding. There's very little thought has gone into the actual design of it. Although some of the user functionality that is there, there has been some design work there. It's mostly just exploratory, just trying to see what can work and what doesn't work. But right away, you can see that there's a disclaimer at the top here. And the idea is that you can, we wanted to share this for 2 weeks. So like, the idea was to let you, anybody that's interested enough to show up to this, chat for you to try it out. And so, and you can see that, you know, from basically what you see here is a record of different searches, different Twitter data sets. We're still sort of working out the naming of things, I guess, but I kind of think of them as data sets that have been created. And you can see when they were created, a search, which I'll explain in a second, and then the person who created it. And then this very cryptic status column. Yes, yeah, it's definitely okay if you feel comfortable giving it a try. What was that I asked? Let's see. Yeah, Era. feel free to give it a try. Because there really isn't a whole lot here just yet, but there's the start of something. And so yeah, so Bert is asking if he needs to log in, and you'll see, maybe I'll just start there. So let's type in something. Oh, Francis, I don't think, is there a password protection on it right now? I don't, so which, let me just pause here for 1 second. You can probably see my message before I'm hitting enter here. I don't think that you should see, you should just be able to go right to it. I thought, maybe not. Yeah, you shouldn't need, I turned the password, the general username and password off this morning. So basically anybody can get into it. But the thing is that it will need you to log in. If you want to create a data set, it basically uses your credentials as a Twitter user to create the data set. So like I'm not logged in right now, and if I type in something, I should hopefully get an error message saying, yeah, please log in first. So at that point, you basically can click login, and it'll send you over to Twitter. In my case, I've already logged in before using my account. But in your case, it'll probably say, DocNow wants to use your login credentials. Anybody having any luck logging in? Looks like maybe some people are logging in. I don't know. Well, let me just show you around first, and then you can log in if you want to. So now I'm logged in, and you can see that my cool. My username is, and you can probably see all your messages popping up here. I wonder if I can put this, yeah, maybe like that. Oh, and so actually you can see right here, Era has started a search right here for a hashtag. And actually you can see, you see things changing on the screen here, and that's basically just information about the workflow that's been kicked off that, mentioned that this is about a data flow. And there's a series of things that happens. At first, we'll go out and try to get the Twitter data as a search. So it'll look for tweets that have already happened that match the Cincy WX hashtag. And then once it's done that, it will do a series of other steps to basically extract information from the tweets that will be used in reports. And we might as well just go look at it. So if you click on that Cincy WX hash, that hyperlink from the main page, you'll see a very basic screen again, which says that who created the data set, what was searched for, when, how many tweets Era decided to collect, and then a series of like little reports. And these are not meant to be visually stunning, but more just as an example of the types of things you can do in this data flow that Dan put together. This first one is looking at the most common hashtags that sort of occurred in the data set. And obviously the first one is the one that we searched on, but then there are also these other ones as well. And I believe that you can click on them and then it'll run a search for you, if you're curious to look at one of them. And I'll describe this in a little bit more detail in a moment. And again, this other one here is like the most mentioned users. And I apologize, it's very difficult to read the usernames along here. This is a design thing that we need to sort out, right? Like what the best way to present this information is. But you can see like here are some users that were mentioned a lot in the Twitter data that was just collected. And it's interesting, one of them is a lot, like this one is really quite large, right? So you can click on it and see, who this organization is. I think because I'm in full screen, it's kind of displaying a little bit differently. Actually, it might make sense to pop out of full screen for a second, if I can figure out how to do that. Yeah, so what normally happens is you'll click on it and it'll pop it up like that. And then, so down below here, we've got, it went through the URLs in the data set because these are kind of important for us, at least for the use case that we articulated in the grant was we wanted to use the Twitter conversation as a way to look at the web. And so you can see here like very common domains. Important thing to realize here is that they're not shortened yet. So these are all, so you can see bit.lys here. These are potentially short URLs for other things. And then over here, you can see these are URLs that actually occurred. So there were 22 mentions of this URL here, and you can click on it. It's actually interesting that the rate at which things disappear from Twitter is kind of, I've been really astonished by how quickly things go away in some of this URL data. I mean, I think we all kind of suspect that it's happening, but it really happens quite a bit. But one interesting thing to note here is that you'll see that wow. Not getting very lucky here with the URLs. So here's a URL that, I guess this was someone talking about a tweet, so you can quote tweets by URL. And so this is a tweet that was talked about in the conversation. And the interesting thing to note here is that we've jumped over to Web Recorder. So if you look at the URL, you'll see that now we're over in Web Recorder. And this is part of what we're still trying to figure out is this integration between Web Recorder and documenting the DocNow tool. But this is a very light way of sort of integrating them by just sort of passing you over to Web Recorder. And Ilya Kramer, who is the primary developer in Web Recorder, he set up a URL path so that if you go to this particular path, which I can share in Slack later if you want, it will either add the URL to, if you're logged into Web Recorder, it will add the URL to an existing collection that you have, or it will, if you're not logged in, it will add it to an anonymous collection. And right now I'm not logged in, so you can see it went to a temporary collection here. We can talk more about that in the Slack channel maybe, or when I can actually respond to people. So down below from there, we have another little chart of the users present in the data. So they're basically ranked by how many followers they have. So you can kind of try to get a measure of like whose signal is being broadcast the most in this Twitter data. Yeah, likewise, you can kind of click on their names and see who they are. And this one is a little bit similar, but it's basically ranked not by the number of followers they have, but the ratio of the number of people they follow versus the number of people that follow them. And sometimes it's a way of kind of getting around like spam accounts that basically may have lots of may follow lots of people, but not actually have very many followers, that kind of thing. And then I'm going to skip over this compare with just for a moment. Below that, we have this raw data section here where these are actually sort of derived data files that are driving the visualizations, these graphs, and they're basically CSV files, you can see. And I mentioned that there's this data flow that gets kicked off. And basically the data flow generates these different data files. They're like derivative data sets that can be used in the visualizations. And you can go and look at them and download them and fixed cell launches on here. You can see that you get the data set here. These are the actually I guess I picked the URL data set. And one of the interesting ones here is the tweet IDs, and that's basically for well, this is a topic unto itself, I guess, but like sharing Twitter data is not very easy to do on the public web because of the Twitter terms of service that sort of constrain how you can share the data. And one of the ways that researchers share Twitter data is by, because it's important often for them to share their work and their data behind their work. And one way to do that is to give out the tweet ID data set, which the Twitter terms of service do allow. So this is something that we were looking at in DocNow, is sort of just making it easy to get that ID data set back out. And then another example of things you can do is look at like the tweets that were retweeted the most. So in this case, and this is just an example. I think it's like the top 10 maybe retweets, or maybe 20. And then this is another interesting thing that Dan did. So basically extracted the images that are. So it's important to distinguish. It's not just all images that are in tweets, but ones that were uploaded as part of the tweet. So like if you tweet and you sort of embed an image in your tweet as part of the tweet itself, that's the ones that would show up here. We do anticipate doing some more work around maybe getting images out of other platforms. So like if somebody tweets a URL to like an Instagram image or a Flickr image, or there's lots of platforms like that you could get images out of. But these are all just ones that were embedded in a tweet. But you can see that there were 30 tweets in that data set that referenced this one image. And then Dan also did some work around sort of image similarity, which is kind of cool. Like, and you can see these are the same image but different sizes. And I think part of the hope here was to be able to sort of identify when images were being sort of repurposed in social media. You often see this with memes, right? Like where, people will replace bits of text in a tweet or in an image, and then spread it around. And actually, you can see it working here, where the colors were different, but it still was able to figure out it was the same image, which is kind of cool. And you can see how many times, they were found. It's interesting, this one here. See, like there's some part of the challenge here is sort of like how many, exposing the knobs for sort of controlling the similarity to the users. Actually, there's a lot of images in this one. Wow. So that's kind of the end of that. I thought I would go to explain the compare. Well, let me go back to the home screen here and see. So Air is the only one who's created a data set, which is, if you don't mind, it'd be interesting actually to see how well it works if multiple people add one at the same time. So I'm gonna actually go over to Twitter and just look and see what's trending in my area right now. Tuesday motivation, Travel Tuesday. I don't know who Rodney Harrison is. TWTS. Maybe I should look at it first before I. Yeah. I have no idea what this is, and I don't have time to figure it out. Actually, what I'll do is I'll just look for like my university, for example, UMD. And you'll see here you can kind of decide how much you want to collect. So at the moment, it's really constrained by how much you can get from the Twitter API at one time. At the moment, it really only works with searches. Oh, I can see Bert started something up here, which is cool. Yeah, it uses the search API at the moment instead of, oh, cool, and Ian's running something too. So it's actually really kind of fun to watch these things going on because it will update sort of dynamically. Oh, Dancing with the Stars. Okay. Well, okay, let me try it then. And roughly speaking, this terms area, you can kind of type in basically anything that you might search Twitter for. So you can put something complicated in there if you want. Like, let's say you wanted like tweets from or tweets to myself or something. I don't know. I think that would work. Actually, I've never really tried that before, but maybe it didn't work. Oh, oh yeah, see, it did sort of work. I guess I'm tweeting to myself, or oh, I'm mentioned in all the URLs. But anyway, that wasn't very interesting. It was just an example that you can kind of, the things that you would search for in Twitter, you can put in here. And let's look at Ian's data set here. Okay, and this is an area where I could explain a little bit more about something that we put into this prototype was this idea of sort of iteratively trying to create your data set. So part of the problem with doing this kind of work is like you kind of pick a hashtag and you hope you're getting the right one, and you know, maybe you are, but maybe there's other things that you would like to add in. And we haven't got the expanding use case in yet, but we have got the sort of constraining use case. So let me actually go back and look at Bert's here. Well, actually, maybe I'll stick with Ian's. I wish that I could actually talk to you here because it would help. But so, for example, like there's some hashtags that occurred with that data set. I don't know what ERRE is, but if you click on that bar in the graph, what it'll do at the moment, which is very lightweight, is it just adds that to your terms. And then what you can do is you can turn around and click add, and it will basically run a search for that. And this will be a smaller data set, so it won't be as big as the original one, because these are both, I think they both have to occur in the data set. But even so, like it's still kind of interesting because it's still got the same number of tweets, but they're just kind of constrained to both of those hashtags now. And you can see kind of like the data set change a little bit. And one of the things that we also added was this idea of comparing your data sets. So what we can do is we can compare this data set that we just collected to the previous one. And at the moment, we don't really have very much here. It was basically just a proof of concept. Well, the whole thing's a proof of concept, but it was basically to compare the hashtags that co-occur in the two data sets. So, and you can see the legend is up here. So the light blue is the one with ERRE in it, and the other one is without it. And you can see some differences, I guess, between the data sets. But you know, it could get more interesting when you're comparing, you know, something like Baltimore uprising and Baltimore riots, right? That the way that different people used hashtags to talk about a particular event. Where I think the hope is that sort of being able to compare the data sets would be useful. Let me just pause there and feel free to, oh, ERE is our electoral reform hashtag. Oh, cool. All right. Thank you. Again, I apologize for not getting this live demo thing working so that you could actually ask questions. Maybe if there's interest and you want to, we could have another meeting where we kind of chat about where things are going, or as a conversation. But I'm glad that some of you were able to tune in just for this. One thing that we had a project meeting yesterday is that we were talking about possibly making these sort of semi-regular. So this prototype was really developed just really for this meeting that we just had last week, and to figure out how to work together as a team. And we anticipate that that we'll have other things to share in terms of like where to move on from this prototype. And so I think we were talking about maybe every 4 to 6 weeks, something like that, having another session like this where I've actually figured out how to allow people to participate, and also because we really are interested in any feedback that you guys might have about like what we've done so far, and ways that you would like it to move forward. Cool, yeah. Hydrator. I can show Hydrator if you want. I mean, I guess there's time. Does anybody have any interest in that? Burgess has seen it already, so. Okay. I think I can show it. It works similarly. And feel free to drop off the call if Hydrator isn't interesting. Okay, cool. So Hydrator is, the idea for that is, I mentioned earlier that it's difficult for researchers to share Twitter data without sort of violating the Twitter terms of service. And this JSON, the rich structured metadata that comes back from the Twitter API, they basically make you sign a developer agreement to be able to get it. And then, I'll show it. I just thought I'd explain it, but maybe you guys already probably get why it's necessary, right? So let's take, Burgess created this National Dog Day data set a few days ago. Actually, that's 1,000. One of the things we wanted to do with this is to show the number of tweets on this home screen here, because it's difficult to tell. I think, okay, that's a little bit bigger. It's 17,000. It's not very much, but let's go and download that tweet ID data set. So click on it, and I'm just going to save it to my desktop here. So right now on my desktop somewhere, you can see emails I've been composing. You can see I've got this tweet IDs .txt file, and if we open it, it's just a list of numbers, right? And so this Hydrator thing is a desktop application. So part of the reason for doing it as a desktop application is that you can get the Twitter data and then it's yours because you're running it on your own machine. If we were to build this as a web service, a website, or build it into DocNow, then it gets into this tricky territory where you're giving the data to a third party. But when you run an application and get the data, there's no third party. You're getting it for yourself, right? So that was part of the motivation for creating it as a desktop app. And I had previously created a command line tool for getting it. So Twark has this sort of ability to hydrate Twitter data, but not everybody really knows how to use the command line. And Definitely not everybody, and even if you do, it can be tricky sometimes to get to work installed and configured properly. So one of our advisory board members, this guy Dean Freelon, who's a political scientist at American University, he had this idea for creating a desktop application, and been sort of working on it off and on ever since. And just last weekend, we sort of released the first version of this. And if you want to try it out, you go to if you go to our DocNow org account on GitHub, and then the first thing there at the moment is Hydrator. And then if you scroll down in that page, you'll see a bit of description about what this thing is. And at the moment, there's only an OS X version, but the frameworks and stuff that we used should be able to build for other OSs as well. I just haven't got around to it yet. But yeah, the OS X version is there. So if you click on that, it should download a installer. And I actually haven't installed it on this workstation yet, so you'll get to see that. Where'd it go? All right, so it downloaded. And once it's downloaded, you can open it up. And you'll get this little screen. Be nice to make, Alexandra, I was thinking it might be fun to make like a water level here or something, like, I don't know. You can drag this over into your applications, right? When you're installing things on OS X, at least that's how it's presented, or one of the ways. One of the tricks here is that, cool, is that it's not, I haven't signed this as a developer, so you kind of have a little extra step where you have to kind of confirm that you want to open it for the first time. So once it's in your applications, the easiest way I've found to start it is just to go to your Finder. I think Francis knows of a better way to do this, but where's my applications? And here it is. And I sort of control click on it to open it. And that prompts it, OS X, to give you an option to I think. Yeah, see, it's like an unidentified developer because I haven't signed it yet as a developer. I'm not like an approved Apple developer, but I guess this is a step that we might actually go through if it seems like a useful thing to do. But you can confirm that you want to open it. It's just warning you that Apple doesn't know who this application is from. I think it should start. I think I've noticed like the first time that you started it, there's a little bit of a yeah, see, it's starting here. It seems to start up quickly after the first time. Maybe there's some kind of step where it's running something, but so the first screen that you'll see is a little page that asks for your Twitter keys. And this is a similar step that happened in Hydrate, or in the prototype we were looking at. Basically, it needs your keys to talk to the Twitter API, and it basically, yeah, it uses your keys to talk to the Twitter API. So, so I'll put my browser window up here again. And so when you click on this linked Twitter account, what should happen is your browser will get sent over to Twitter, and the Hydrator app is asking for permission to use your account. It can read tweets and see who you follow, but it can't do any of these things. So it won't post tweets for you or do any DM stuff or follow, etc. Uh-oh, something's going on. Is the video gone bad? Did I lose people? I guess. Maybe I overstayed my welcome with Google Hangouts. Can't seem to find. Oh, here we are. I'm sorry about that. I wonder if it thinks like it's the most boring video because like nobody's participated because I couldn't figure out how to share it with anybody. I guess I'll give you like 10 seconds or so to refresh if you want to, and then I'll show you the rest. Okay, cool. So so one of the things that happened there, I'm sorry that it cut out when it did. So what happened was when I click on authenticate or link, with Twitter, it went over to this Twitter page, and basically it's asking for permission to use your credentials, and you have to authorize it. At which point it will give you this PIN number, and then you go back to Hydrator. You'll see a new box is there where you enter the PIN number and submit it. Now you can see that you can actually see my keys, which I guess they'll change. Now they're on YouTube. Yeah, once you've got those keys, you can go over and you can see that there's these three. It's a very simple app. There's just three things you can do. If you click on data sets, it doesn't really do anything yet because we haven't added anything yet. But once you add something, you go to this add tab, I guess you'd call it, and you can select a tweet ID file. So in this case, I put it on my desktop, right? So go and select that tweet ID file. You can see that it shows you like where the tweet ID file is, the number of tweets that it found. This is some very basic metadata that I think this is something that we would probably like to change based on feedback that we get, like what kinds of metadata are actually important to record about a ID file. This is something I just kind of made up, right? And then when you're happy with it, you can say Add Dataset. Now you can see that the Datasets tab you can go to it now, and you can see that there's now a row in it, and you can actually add. I mean, we could do the same one twice if we wanted to. This is kind of silly, I guess, but I'm taking Ian's name in vain there. And actually, it'd be good to display the author here, perhaps. And then what you can see is you have these start and delete buttons. And so we can say, well, let's start this hydration here. And it's kind of confusing, but so it's got an ID file, but it needs to know where to write the JSON file to. And it could default to something, but at the moment, it prompts you to enter in where you want to write the JSON data to. So in my case, I'm selecting an area on the desktop called test.json. Once I hit save there, you can see that it's off kind of doing something. And the idea here is that it's sort of like a progress bar that sort of looks like water. That was the design thing that I was reaching for that I didn't quite get to, but you can see that so the numbers that you see changing here are the number of IDs that have been hydrated out of the total, and then you can also see a number changing here that's the number of tweets that actually came back. And so what happens is that people delete Twitter data, and if they do delete Twitter data, and you have the ID for the tweet, you can't get the data back for it. So one of the interesting things is seeing the rate at which things are deleted. And actually, if you click on the name of the data set here, you'll see the stuff that you entered, where it's reading the IDs from and where it's writing the data to. And then this is it's neat because you can see the numbers changing as they're, as more data is being written. And you can also see the percent of deleted, which is also interesting. And I mean, that's basically it. Now, the cool thing that it does is that it'll kind of use your it observes the Twitter rate limits. So I don't know if we'll hit it with this size of a data set. We might, because there's a certain number of tweets that you can hydrate in a particular period of time. And I think it's like 1.3 million tweets a day is like 24-hour day. But what Hydrator will do, and it's not all at once, like it's a certain amount. I think it's like 17,000 per 15 minutes, I think. So actually, we might just hit a limit on this one because it's 17,665. I can't remember the exact number, but anyway, the Hydrator will sort of observe the rate limits, and you'll see a little message pop up in here when it's sleeping to kind of wait till the next time it can ask for data set or tweets. And the idea here is that you could let it run for a week or longer, depending on the size of the data set, and you wouldn't have to worry about managing it. You could sort of close your laptop, and when you open it up again, it'll just sort of pick up where it left off. Will we hit it at 1700? No. I can't remember the exact number. It basically just appears in red here when it's... And anyway, so once it's done, you know, it shows up in green here. And if we go and we look at the data, oh, that's not good. I don't want to open it in Sublime. I'll probably kill my laptop. But I mean, you'd have to take my word for it that the data's there, right? So this is just kind of looking at it in the terminal. And yeah, so that's basically the idea of Hydrator. It is just still, it's a little bit more than a prototype, I think, in that like some thought has gone into you know, making it like work properly and scale properly. Because it's really just a desktop application, but I think more work needs to be done on sort of the design part of it, and you know, and perhaps the screens that are available. Like if there's other kind of stats or things that people would find useful, I think we could put them in there. If you do have ideas, it would be awesome if you could go over to our GitHub page and basically go into our issue tracker and just add stuff. Feel free to add stuff. This is one that I added recently because if you delete the tweet ID file from underneath Hydrator, it kind of just doesn't really do anything and it's not able to hydrate anymore. So the idea of basically adding like a little you know, warning that the file's been removed, perhaps to this screen here or even on the datasets page. But yeah, that's basically all I have. If anybody's still watching, I don't know. I guess we can, if people do have questions, maybe it's best to ask them in Slack, and then I can either just respond. I see that we're almost at the top of the hour anyway, so I imagine most people are gone now. But thank you for joining us on this sort of like half-baked demo. And next time, I promise I'll have it sorted out so that I can actually talk, we can have a conversation about this, because doing it one way really feels awkward. So, all right, thank you. Let me see if I can figure out how to turn it off. Oh, you're welcome. I don't think it's gone yet.